Hello everybody, my name is Ilya Rudkin and welcome to part 4 in my series of videos on how I made my mountain bike video Doug's Trail earlier this year. Now in part 4 I'm going to show you how you can create the 3D map fly through. I'm using Google Earth Pro version 7.33. You can download it from Google. I will put a link to it in the description below. Just a note, I'm using Google Earth Pro on a Mac. It almost is a complete solution to generating a scriptable and, more importantly, a repeatable fly-through. Having created a fly-through, I then screen capture the fly-through, save that to a file, and then import that directly into Final Cut Pro. I understand that the PC version is ever so slightly different in places, so do please take that into account. Okay, let's get started and I'll open up Google Earth Pro and I'll show you how it's done. Okay, so before we open up Google Earth Pro, let me tell you what we're going to do. First, I'm going to give you a quick tour of the GUI, tell you what is relevant and what is not relevant at this point in time. I'll then show you how we enter the mountain bike route on the ground. After we've finished that and we are happy with that, we will then go on to how we use waypoints and then position camera snapshots of the 3D scene looking at your mountain bike route at points along the route. So we'll use a series of waypoints. We'll build the 3D fly-through. Once we are happy with that, we render it, see what it looks like, maybe give it a few tweaks, and then we perform screen capture. I have to perform a screen capture because even though Google Earth Pro does support an export to a movie file, it's crippled in that it only exports video files of the Eiffel Tower or various other famous scenes around the world. You can't actually export your own route. Quite why they've done that, I don't know. But basically, you can create your route, you can create your fly-through, but then you have to do another means of capturing that animation once you're finished with it. And with that, I use QuickTime. I capture that whole screen as it flies through, and then trim it and import it in Final Cut Pro. With that all said and done, let's open up Google Earth Pro. I'll go through the layout quickly, and then we will go on to entering a mountain bike route. So here we are presented with the GUI layout. This is the typical layout you would be presented with when Google Earth starts. On the left here we have two tree views. One's called Layers and one's called Places. We're interested at this time in Places. And as you might see here already, I have Doug's Trail. This is what was used to create fly-through in the original video. And here we have Fly By Scotland, which we'll be using to show you how we enter a trail. Up here on the top is a toolbar with various items. We don't necessarily need to use all of these. So to get started, the important point here in Places is called My Places. This is a top tree item, and underneath this, if you highlight it, we need to add a folder. Folder dialog pops up. We'll give it a name, Test Route. And that's all we have to do for the moment, is just create a folder. And that will appear as a new tree item under Places. To this test route, we then add a path. Now a path is a series of segmented line points, and we will then draw a path or a route on the ground. So you can have as many paths as you like, but we're just going to have one here for the moment. So I'm just going to call this Path 1. Has various style, view and altitude and measurement settings. We'll go on to those in a moment. To enter a path, cursor out of the dialog, you get a new cursor and you would start pinpointing a route on the ground. You can delete points by clicking on them and going backwards. It's a little bit unintuitive. Once you get used to how you edit the points, I would suggest you do a little bit of practice, because there's nothing more annoying than going so far and entering quite a few points, and it's very easy to create unnecessary points and from what I can see in the interface, you can't do a bulk select and delete, and you can't do an undo with the normal Command Z. Do one point at a time and just take your time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this path because I can't work with this now. I'll be here forever trying to delete it. But for the moment, you have a path underneath test route. We can zoom into the map and go up here, add path. So add a new path. We'll call this path 2. I'm interested in, say, drawing a route around the lake around Stirling University. Place carefully where you want the route and just follow this path. I'm doing this quite quickly. So we're just about to create our first route. Change the colour. So we can go to here, bring up a colour wheel, change it to red, go OK, change it to red, we can change the thickness. But the really neat thing about this line, if you want, especially when you've got a 3D perspective, is if I tilt the ground and zoom in, the layout, and I've got some perspective on this, and you think, well, that's a bit flat. You might have seen in the intro to this video, what I did is I raised the ground. So here in this tab, we have relative to ground, and we can raise the line above the ground. Now here again I exaggerated it, and we can extend up to ground. It's really quite neat. So if we go back to style and colour, we have now, besides line colour, we also have fill colour. And for the sake of this, I'm going to just turn green. And there you go. And then I can change that to be outline, filled, and I'll leave that where it is for the moment. But as you can see, you can be quite versatile and it can bring out the route. And also it follows the terrain. When it's in this mode relative to ground, that part will follow the hills above the ground. You can see these ticks here. They allow you to switch on and off various parts of your tour. So if I had more than one path with more than one route, individually select them on and off. And this might be useful if you want to build up an animation but only want to show parts of it. And there you go. So there is a route, and if you're happy with that, we'll go on to the next stage. Now that we're happy with the route, we now enter the waypoints relative to the route and the snapshot, the camera positions along the route so we can build that 3D animation. What we're going to do now is we're going to go onto the path that actually used the intro of this video and go through that. As you can see here, this is the route we flew through on the intro to this video. These drawing pins represent waypoints. Each waypoint has camera position. So if I click on the second waypoint in the tree view, the camera will move relative to that waypoint. If I click on another waypoint, the camera will move relative to that waypoint. So by zooming out, you can see I have a series of waypoints along the route where there is a new camera position for each one. So just to repeat that, if I go to the last one, this camera viewpoint shows the end of the mountain bike route. Now, you may have noticed here that these waypoints, like this one here, are way off the route. What you will find is it doesn't matter where you place the waypoint. It's not important to follow the route. What is important here is the camera position relative to each waypoint. Now, each of these waypoints have some metadata, so we get that up by going get info. And as you can see, this particular waypoint is now being highlighted as the one to edit. I can move it around. It doesn't change the camera with respect to that waypoint. But if, for instance, I wasn't happy with this viewpoint, I can go up to here and change it, change the angle, spin it around. And if I go over to this tab, view, click snapshot current view, click OK, then I have replaced the last camera position with this new camera position relative to that waypoint. So each of these waypoints represents a different camera position in 3D space. To animate transitions between these waypoints, we go up to the tour label and we can click Play Tour. But just before I do that, in order to speed up editing, what you can do, if you go to Google Preferences and go to the touring label, you will find these set of settings relative to the tour folder, Fly by Scotland in this case. And here you will see the number of seconds it takes the camera to fly from one waypoint to another relative to the camera positions you set at the time. Here I have 5 seconds. If I move it to something like 2 seconds, just for the sake of this example, and click OK, if I go up to the top label, hit play, we will animate through the camera positions very, very quickly. Now this is good to set up a camera route. And there we go with the last position that I set, and that will carry on repeating until I hit stop. Once I'm happy with the route and the fly through over the route, what I then do is I go back up to preferences and I change the time to something like 20 seconds. The reason I do this is because sometimes, especially if you have a slow computer or a slow internet connection, there isn't much texture cache on this, it can glitch. So what I want to do is give it as much time as possible to render more frames than I need. It does make screen capture file very, very big, but have more material to work with, there's less chance of glitch. If I click OK and I hit play, it will zoom out to the first position, and it will take 20 seconds to fly from this position to the next position, and I'll grab all those frames. There we go. And you see how smoothly that animates? There's no glitches in the textures. But in Final Cut Pro, I can ramp speed that up to whatever I want. So it gives me that flexibility. Each of these are waypoints that have an icon next to them. You might want to show the start of the route. So you can go, okay, start, and then you can change its icon to position marker A and click OK. And there you go. You can actually then capture this too, and then I can make these other pins disappear. So if I go get info up there and say no icon, even though it says no icon, you do have to click on it. So you click OK, and you can see the icon has disappeared. And for the purposes of my animations, I don't want the label either. But I do want to know where my waypoints are, even though I can switch them on at a later date. So what I do is I use a decimal point, go to the text color and take it down to 50%. And if you can still see the decimal points, you can hide them in obscure places. But I have found that when you do play through the animation, you may have not noticed these points here anyway. So now that we're happy with our flyby and our route, we should now go ahead and record by screen capture. In this particular case, I'm going to use this particular monitor. It's just an HD resolution monitor. I do suggest you try and use 4K monitor if you have one. The only useful area is in here, so that way we can capture more pixels and capture at the HD resolution when you do crop. But for the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to leave everything where it is. So we start up QuickTime and we go to New Screen Recording and we select the screen, record entire screen. Click on the screen that we want. That is now started recording in the background. We'll even record the cursor. So if you don't want the cursor in your video, do be sure to move it out of the way. If we go up to Fly by Scotland, hit on the tour, we will start the tour. Now remember, I've set this at 5 seconds between each waypoint. I would extend this to say 20 seconds. See the flicker here? And you see a bit of a jittery there? That's what we do not want, and that's why I go to 20 seconds. It doesn't put so much stress on the computer. So we let it play all the way through. And there we go. That is our animation. We now stop the recording. We can see the film here. If we wanted, we could use trim function. We can take off the front just until it starts moving, maybe when we get our mouse cursor out the way. Maybe I can lose some of the end. Save it, quick time, and that's it. We have now an output. So I'm happy with that. That is now ready to be imported into Final Cut Pro. Okay, that's it for part 4. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see part 5 in this series, where I take the semi-raw footage that we trimmed before and put it in some kind of sequence using Final Cut Pro in preparation to make the video, then do please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. Now, if you want to see the other videos in this series, the links to those videos are in the description below. Catch up with you guys next time.